there's this concept going around that, I mentioned this, there's 5,000 scientists supposedly who have signed this thing saying that we shouldn't, that the lockdown shouldn't be good, if we maintain some basic guidelines. And, we have proven as a society that we're not capable of providing basic or maintaining basic guidelines. We're just simply not. And there's a couple of reasons for that, but I mean, there's no point in going through it. I mean, it's just simply the case. It's also conceivable that human beings just don't have, every epidemiologist I spoke to at the beginning of this said, 6 months peak to peak. Why? Don't know. And it's just conceivable that human beings, have a short-term memory deficit when it comes to sort of things they should be afraid of or concerned about or worry about, and 6 months is maybe the cycle that it takes to sort of like be rigorous about avoiding catching an infectious disease, and then feeling like, oh wait, we've figured out because it's summer or whatever it is, like I can go out and not catch the disease, and then forgetting when you go back inside that you can catch the disease.
Well, I mean, it's also just, it's human nature. Like the numbers were going down, people were loosening. I mean, their guard went down a little bit. Also, the lockdown was so intense in the beginning. I think when the numbers started to get better and we realized some of the rules, you could go outside, you could social distance outside and have a little bit more freedom. Little by little, people started to loosen up, not to mention government doing absolutely nothing.
Right. To promote people, like making it easier for people to adhere to those guidelines, without a doubt. Here is the director of the WHO. This is the World Health Organization.
I've never.
Nobody ever calls it the WHO?
Pete Townsend.
This is the Dr. Roger Daltrey.
The WHO, the World Health Organization. I mean, come on. If you're going to use an acronym, why wouldn't you say that?
Who won't get COVID again?
I don't know. I guess, I mean, why would you use the initials if you're not going to say it? It just spells out. All right. Well, fine, whatever. I call it the WHO. The World Health Organization. I don't know. I guess
the WHO.
I'm the only person who calls it the WHO.
You are the only person.
All right. That's fine. Anyways, I mean, I get most of my health directives from Led Zeppelin, but the WHO, the director of the World Health Organization, has a message to people who think that herd immunity is a strategy for fighting a pandemic, as opposed to a concept that comes about through vaccination.
Right.
Here it is.
There has been some discussion recently about the concept of reaching so-called herd immunity by letting the virus spread. Herd immunity is a concept used for vaccination, in which a population can be protected from a certain virus if a threshold of vaccination is reached. For example, herd immunity against measles requires about 95% of a population to be vaccinated. The remaining 5% will be protected by the fact that measles will not spread among those who are vaccinated. For polio, the threshold is about 80%. In other words, herd immunity is achieved by protecting people from a virus, not by exposing them to it. Never in the history of public health has herd immunity been used as a strategy for responding to an outbreak, let alone a pandemic. It's scientifically and ethically problematic.
I mean, in the best case scenario, we don't know how infected you have to be to not get reinfected.
Right.
We don't know for sure how many different strains are out there that you could still be you could still be vulnerable to after getting one strain of COVID. And I guess, the point here is that, like, you're basically saying we're going to kill an uncertain number of people to get to this point, and we're going to do it more or less on purpose.
Well, I mean, like, the plague is a great case study here. It's not. There was no vaccine. This lasted, I mean, how long did it last? 10 years or so? And there were highs and lows, peaks and valleys, and numbers were much, much, much worse. But I just don't understand, like, is this a real conversation? Are we actually having a conversation about herd immunity, or is this just like a far right-wing thing? Because this isn't in exchange for, instead of developing a vaccine.
No, it's just this idea that, like, we should go out there and let it roll and, try and sequester people who have the highest chances of dying, and assume that we can do that effectively, and assume that we're, like, the immiseration of those people would be pretty intense. I mean, it's very difficult, I think, for older folks who have to be that much, more vigilant. And the idea that, like, let's roll the dice and see what happens. Maybe we only need to get to 45% or 50%, of the people getting infected, or maybe it's 60%, maybe it's 30%, maybe it's 70%. We don't know. And
they played this out. I mean, wasn't Norway first, their first strategy? Was it Norway? Their first strategy was herd immunity.
Sweden, no, they don't. They do not refer to it as a herd immunity strategy, but it is there was some notion of, like, there would be less shutdowns. Now that the ebbs and flows there too, and you got to look at places that have had some measure of success, and it involves largely, like, a massive effort to wear masks, let's say, when you come in contact with people. And certainly when you go inside,